Welcome to the Big Play Tailgate, everybody. I'm Tony Zarella with Bob Golick, Chucky Booms, Week 17 in the NFL. Love to say that we are white-knuckling this down the stretch, but it's the exact opposite as, well, it's been off the rails for quite a long time. Yeah. You know, the best they can do right now, and they're not going to do it, and we'll get to that in a minute, is finish with 5 wins, would be the fewest since their winless season of 2017. They're not going to get there because next week the Ravens are playing for a division title. So
you're basically saying they're mathematically out of it.
Well, not according to 92.
Depends on who you read or listen to.
You got to get on the right radio.
I could win out.
If they win by 75 points.
If the Browns win out and the other 3 teams suffer horrible bus accidents, we actually are the division.
But we're here at 3-12. Dolphins, of course, this week it got flexed out of prime time for the second time in a month. So here we go. So they're at 3-12. The best they can do is 5 wins. Yep. And that's probably not going to happen. So we've already discussed what went wrong, Bob. The next step is where do we go from here?
Well, I mean, first off, the biggest problem is that it looks like a cluster mess.
Not nicely played.
Thank you very much.
As soon as I heard cluster, I started to get nervous.
And it was like every week we saw something else happen, and it was like, hey, try this. Hey, try this. And it's all they could do at the time, and it wasn't like they had any alternatives, but it's still for us.
What victims?
Yeah.
What victims?
What?
Yeah.
How did we get stuck with this mess?
As soon as he said that, I thought about training camp, and they're going, what we're going to hit him with is, here, try this. Here, try this. And let's see if that works.
Who created this clown show?
And all we could do was, okay,
and
are
we past the initial stage? The initials with the quarterback, by the way. Can we just call him Dorian as he plays out what will probably be?
I'm glad you brought him up. He should not be starting this week.
Thank you.
I absolutely, and I wanted you to chime in on this being, well, you're a former Patriot, but he's a New England Patriots fan. This Bailey Zappi kid came here and lit the Browns up. Didn't he have 400 and some yards and 4 touchdowns? Couldn't I at least see that? So I understand I didn't say that it's the second coming of Frank Gifford, but would you rather see Bailey Zappi or the initials kid?
He's Frank Gifford after the Bednarik. That's who he is.
After Chuck.
Look, you're down the list now. You're adding to the jersey. That's what you're doing. It doesn't matter. I'm not yelling at you. It doesn't matter.
Looking at what they have, I'm sorry.
No,
looking at what they've done with all the people they've tried in there. Let's go back to when the Browns came back to Cleveland and look at how many quarterbacks they've done. I'm sitting there thinking, oh man, we're going to have a number 1 draft choice. Do we still have number 1 draft choices this year?
This year we do, yeah.
Right, and going, okay, we can get ourselves a quarterback. Oh my God,
they did. They got that quarterback.
If they get a quarterback, they're going to kill him. I mean, they're going to ruin him. He's going to be out for the rest of his life unless he follows like Baker Mayfield. Every time we bring a guy in, it's so disheveled that they're not. They can't get a good solid
We had him. We had stability that we complained about, Bob, since 99 until we decided to go back to the old format of unstable. And I thought of you this morning, Tony, because the more I thought of Baker and how great he's been playing down in Tampa, do you guys realize he just did a little thing called following Tom Brady?
Yeah.
He followed the greatest quarterback to ever play. And we've all talked about what's the worst gig ever when they come up to you and go, congratulations, Bob, you're going to replace Johnny Carson. Yeah. And you go, I'm sorry, what? You know, because there is no replacing Johnny Carson.
I replaced it. But remember, too, Baker had 2 years with Carolina. Wasn't it 2 years?
No.
I thought it was a year. But
he wasn't doing well there.
I don't even think he made a year. Didn't he get traded to the Rams?
I don't know. What I do know is that other than a Super Bowl appearance or victory, if you asked a longtime suffering Browns fan what's on their bucket list before they die, they'd say probably, I just want to go to the playoffs. And you know what would be, even better? To beat the Steelers in the playoffs. And you drafted a guy who did it. And what did you do? You ran him out of time.
Well, don't leave out the other good tidbit on that, because that's hysterical and all true. But let's not forget he also beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in the last home game of the year to get you to the playoffs. And then the following week went to Pittsburgh and beat them there. So he beats the Steelers, who you hate more than anyone. No other quarterback in Browns history has done it 2 weeks in a row, and he was 5 minutes from the AFC Championship.
So the reason that I appear aggressive this morning, and I'm
More
not,
than ever, I love it.
I'll never be as tough as you. So
Okay.
I'm really not really. I'm well aware of this. Is that it? When you sit here and talk about Zappy or whoever you want to, it doesn't matter.
Bailey's.
Thank you. It doesn't matter. You had the guy, and now what you have to do is try to throw a dart at a wall and hit, and maybe you get a Bo Nix, who you had, and now you do.
Derek Carr.
Well,
Remember
you know,
when? Well, wait. No, how about they're already talking about the?
no,
I got to do it.
No, you don't have to do it.
It says right here, Chuck, do it. Tony's being very aggressive today. All right, I'm
Well,
doing
not
it.
as aggressive
They're
as
talking
Bob.
about
Kirk.
trading to get Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Well, they won't
because-
have to trade for him. The Falcons will cut him. So they, but we're gonna break this
Well,
down.
now, how are you going to get rid of? How are you going to add his money when you have to pay
Yeah.
Watson $73 million to sit home?
Yeah, well, if you believe the reports, maybe you'll be playing Watson. I don't see how that's possible.
Oh, God.
Adamantly against it. But I want to talk more about Cousins. And really, this, Bob, goes back to, much like yourself, a Pro Bowl defensive player saying at this point in the prime of his career, I might want to move on at this point.
Yeah.
I don't think I have it in me. That and more when the tailgate rolls on. All right, back here on the tailgate, and Bob, not just Myles Garrett saying a couple of times, look, I'm not in for the rebuild here. I've done, they got me coming off a 1-win season. We went winless.
1 win in 2 seasons.
Well, correct, but they draft Miles, and then
Yeah.
so he's been through that. Joel Bitonio has been here a long time now. He's talking about it.
We've talked about how the consistency of this team, how it's never been there, and you'd look to find it. Joel's been that guy. Joel's been the guy like Joe Thomas was that has been there ever since. Even now, he's not talking about moving on. He's talking about, doing a new contract or going home and going fishing with his kids. And he's one of the people that gives you some continuity. Without him, I don't even know what to think. At that point, we're going to have everybody. But you get to the point where, as a player, you get hurt when you first start, and then you recover in the off season. Then you get hurt, then you recover in the off season. As you get older and the more years you play, eventually
You say,
start
remember when
coming
I
back.
used to recover?
You used to come back and say, hey, I still got this. This is bugging me. And then you get to the point where you're like, okay, does it hurt too much?
Well, not only that, Bob, when you were with the Raiders, so you had the great years here in Cleveland, and you guys were knocking on the door, and then you go to the Raiders, correct? And did you get to a point in your career where you started to think, look, my clock is ticking here on my career.
Yeah.
I may have 2 years left. I'm set financially. That's great, but I want to win. Did you feel like that?
Yeah, I thought, and at that time I was mad at Carson, just because.
Good old Bud.
Yeah, Bud Carson, just because of the way he came in and said, we're getting rid of everybody. I don't know whoever the defensive line coach was. Said I said, hey, I want to introduce myself, Bob Golick. I'm your nose tackle. He goes, oh yeah, I was going to start looking at some of your videos, see if you fit in with us. And I went, what, fit in with me? So when I got to when I went to the Raiders, first thing I realized is that their black in the uniform would go with anything in my wardrobe. So it was.
So you couldn't lose either way.
So you couldn't lose, and you felt like a badass.
Well,
really.
let me just start by saying when Tony said Bob's clock was ticking, I had this awful thought of him going for pregnancy tests at the drugstore. And so, at any rate...
I'm thinking of my cousin Vinny now.
yeah.
Not to mention.
All right. So, Myles Garrett, let's get back to your original thing. Myles Garrett, I think, has laid down the marker. Yes, Joel Bitonio is about that close from laying down the marker. How far is Denzel behind? Because the last time I saw Titanic, there were people beating it, living crap out of each other to get to that last lifeboat. So if you look up and you go, Miles is going, and then they go, wait, Joel's retiring? Who in that locker room that has a few years experience and is a great player isn't going to go, pick me next, I want to go? It'll be like rats running the baseboard. And so then if that's inevitable, remember the clock's ticking, so's Bob's, on the way to the draft, that's where you can make the most hay. But our esteemed guest down here said, what good are these high picks if Andrew Barry's going to make them?
Right.
So you're in another box.
And not only that, Bob, is this an indication when players are saying things like this that no matter what they're saying upstairs, that, well, we're still close, and they don't believe them?
First off, the whole thing about what direction are we going in, players want to know because they may have limited time left. First off, they don't tell you that. They'll tell you whatever you have to get you to perform, to go out there and train and do it. And you I don't want to say you buy into it, but you do. You know the guys in the team, and you're like, you know what, we can suck it up and get it this year. But I think guys like Miles, who can still go somewhere else, Denzel, who can still maybe go somewhere else.
Okay, he's a lockdown corner.
They want to know. They want to know if they should or if they want. I mean, I guess we should be happy that they're even thinking about.
I'm going to tell you that this is going to blow your mind, Tony. But I really think that Haslam, along with Barry and Stefanski, think, hey, if we don't panic and we bring back Barry and Stefanski, that'll signal to our veterans, like I can't even get through it. That'll signal to our veterans, this is stable. This is very stable. When it's the most unstable place that they certainly know is happening. Now, Tony mentioned something this morning, Bob, you'll love. Daryl Ryder today came up with the greatest thing. Daryl, I love you, buddy. On 92.3 The Fan, he said, you got to give Andrew Barry a promotion.
Promote him.
Oh,
and send him up higher. No, it's a great idea. Get him up higher so that he has nothing to do with the picks. He can't get in the draft room. And I said to Tony, you come down to his office, he's looking at the Sherwin-Williams paint swaths. He's like,
redo the lobby.
We're going to redo the lobby at Berea, and they put me in charge. And you're like, excellent.
I had this vision of him walking into Home Depot with the little chip saying, can you match this?
Oh, Andrew, that's Midnight Madness. What a lovely selection. Subtle yet precocious.
But please stay away from the draft.
That's what they would do. They'd pay him to get to stay away.
Yeah, but they're in a position now when we talked about what got Miles talking, which was the quarterback situation, and Kirk Cousins, who had 16 interceptions this year.
More than Jameis.
And will be 37 years old next training camp. So, I mean, obviously
but then they do. He worked with Stefanski. They're doing the My Guy thing again. Yeah. Bob, we could sing. My guy. Talking about my guy.
He's a bridge quarterback.
Bum, bum.
This is the longest bridge. What's the longest bridge in the world?
Well, it was the Verrazano's Narrows in New York until it was a lie.
We have to take a break. Jeff Smith, the attorney, is going to join us to talk about the Modell Law because things may be heating up between the Browns Sports Group and the city of Cleveland when the tailgate continues. All right, back here on the tailgate, as many of you know, the Modell Law was put into effect. It was enacted after Art took the team to Baltimore, and it was to prevent another relocation as the Browns came back to the NFL, passed by the Ohio legislature, and now the city has voted to employ this. So, as a preemptive strike, the Haslam Sports Group has filed in federal court. Let's bring in attorney Jeff Smith from the law office of Jeffrey Smith and Elyria, and of course Smith & Smith in Avon Lake. And full disclosure, I'm a law clerk for Jeff. Jeff, it's good to see you outside the office.
Nice to see you as well, Tony.
We really appreciate the time, and I want to break this down for people because this now in federal court, we'll see how long this plays out, if it plays out. But what do you think the city's really after here? Can they prevent this move to Brook Park?
I've looked over the law. It's Ohio Revised Code 9.67, and it seems pretty ambiguous to me. They talk about, if the team moves elsewhere. Elsewhere could be down the street to a non-funded stadium. So I think what the city's trying to do is the same thing that they did back in 2001 when there was an issue with Brook Park and the IX Center and extending the runway, is trying to get some kind of deal made out with Brook Park in terms of revenue sharing or whatever you might have going on there. I mean, the thing is there were threats of annexation and all those other kind of things in 2001 with the IX Center. A lot of people try comparing this to the Columbus Crew, in which the Haslams actually stepped in, purchased the team. And I just don't see that there's a whole lot of teeth in this statute. You got Dennis Kucinich, who's out there saying he's going to file a taxpayer lawsuit. So things have to be done. But I think when you look at the federal lawsuit that's been filed, that the due process claim about vague and ambiguous is pretty tough thing to overcome.
Well, Jeff, I know when I think of a city and financial stability, I think Dennis Kucinich. Yeah, boy. When that name came up, I'm like, well, now there's a puncher's chance. Yeah, Mr. Default himself. Yeah. The interesting thing is, what I'd like to get to is there no way for Cleveland, the city now, think about them, to compromise with Brook Park so that there's kind of a shared, because it's not only going to be the dome, it's all the other stuff around it. And it is going to be a hit to downtown Cleveland because people come down here, eat, drink before the game, after the game. Is there no way, and I'm going to you as an expert, that maybe something could be drawn up between the city and Brook Park and the Browns so that everybody, I guess what I'm saying, has a piece of the pie?
Well, that's exactly what happened in 2001 with the with the IX Center and the NASA building going over to Brook Park. I think that that's the whole end game here, is trying to minimize the hit to Cleveland. But you have to take into account, when you're looking at these businesses that are going to suffer, on these Sunday game days when they have their big, year-long attendance and the people that come downtown, and you don't want to see those businesses suffer. So it's a tough balancing act, as you would say.
And, as a player, you look at the possibility. When I was with the Raiders, the Seahawks said they were going to move down to see us, and there was guys moving all over the place, but it's always major city to major city, and it never seemed like it's an issue. But now we're talking about, and you mentioned it before, the vagueness and the ambiguity of what the words say in the statute, and it makes you feel like there is, okay, you want to try to find it, make it more exacting, because you're talking about moving to another city within the Cleveland Metroplex or whatever you want to call
12 miles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a very close area, and the statute says elsewhere. So let's say I'm looking at it elsewhere. Could be someone moves, down the street, and they put a dome in, say where the airport is, and is that going to be a problem for the city? I wouldn't think so, but that's moving somewhere elsewhere. I mean, that's the kind of silly kind of arguments that people can make on these kind of things as well.
Bob brought up something, Jeff, real quick, and then Tony, I'm sorry. That usually it is big city to big city. The Seattle Supersonics go to Oklahoma City. That's a big move. But there were moves, and I remember Jack Kent Cooke, the owner of the Redskins, took them out of D.C. and RFK Stadium, a beloved home venue for them, and then took them out into the suburbs of Maryland. But I'm wondering, Jeff, was that allowed because Jack Kent Cooke, Tony, you remember, he built Redskins Stadium, whatever it was called, or it was called Jack Kent Cooke Stadium when it opened. He paid for that whole thing. Is that one of the differences here? And since Haslam's putting in a lot of his own money, might they look at the Washington model and say, that happened?
Well, look at Detroit, moved out to Pontiac and moved back, and that stadium, I think, was fully funded as well by the Fords. So that was a close area thing too. But cities want to have their city be the focus of the attention when it comes to these games, because it brings a lot of money to the cities. But it still would be the Cleveland Browns. They still would the money would still be coming in, and that's where you have to. I think they're looking to get some kind of balance in terms of the income that the city is making off of, and tax money and revenues that the city's making off of the stadium.
You know, you could get the upset retail workers because all the different restaurants and stuff down there are going to be without it, and maybe they'll file little lawsuits along the way.
Well, speaking of lawsuits, I wanted to Jeff Smith from the law office of Jeffrey Smith and Elyria and Smith and Avon Lake and Jeff. Jeff handles both criminal cases and civil. And would you consider representing fans in a mass tort situation for intentional infliction of emotional distress?
Well, that's a tough one. I mean, emotional distress is, happens to us all the time.
I don't feel good right now talking about it.
Well, and I want to be on the lawsuit, but Jeff, only if I can go for PTSD, because this started to happen in '99, and so I have long flashbacks.
It's chronic.
Jeff, I was just tongue in cheek. Don't answer that. Hey, before you go, Jeff's a USC guy, by the way.
96. And I'll give you another scenario that you didn't talk about, and that was the Chicago Bears. While they went and played down in at the Champaign,
they did
for a couple years while they built the new stadium in Chicago. You didn't hear a whole lot of ruckus about that, at least that I'm aware of. But that's an option too, where they could tear down the municipal stadium and put
Tony, you and I talked about that.
I brought that up because I
tear
covered
this down and put the dome here,
Yes.
and they go play
They
at the
go
Horseshoe.
Columbus for 2 years. I brought that up because I covered a game in Champaign, Illinois when they were doing that.
Yeah.
Real quick. Hey, Jeff's a University of Southern Cal guy. Bob, you're a Notre Dame guy. I'm glad you guys got along well, but your paths almost crossed. You're pretty close in age.
Jeff,
here.
you said that you were at the '77 game, the green jersey game.
Yes, I was.
Up in South Bend. You should have let me know. I would have given you my jersey. No, I wouldn't have given you my jersey. I got $1,000.
I have a jersey that's a number 5, which was a guy that wasn't Reggie Bush at the time, but it's from 1977. That was great times. I was there at that game, and I remember seeing those guys come out, and I had great seats. I was like on the 50-yard line, and I was like, oh boy, I was a sophomore in college. And, were you playing in that game? Had you made the starting lineup yet at Notre Dame?
Yeah, I made the starting lineup my second game my freshman year.
Good for you.
So I was.
You were entrenched, man.
Jeff, let me jump in and help you. You might want to remind Bob about another green jersey game when Matt Leinart shoved Heisman Trophy winner Reggie Bush over the goal line in South Bend for the W.
I was there for that game, too. I haven't missed one in South Bend since 1977. So
because it's such a vacation spot.
There's been a lot of losses and a few nice wins.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for joining us and talking about this.
Yeah, let's stay in touch with him because this is only going to get crazier as this unwinds.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Well, I do have an in.
Yeah, that helps.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you,
Thank
Jeff.
you, guys. Have a great day. Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year to you.
Too.
Go Irish.
Very good for everybody and all your watchers.
Go
too.
Irish.
Thank you, sir. He is the best.
I know.
Go Irish.
Tremendous attorney. We'll be back on the tailgate right after this. So week 17 in the NFL, Dolphins in town. Best the Browns can do if they win this one and in Baltimore next week, which I can't possibly see happening, is 5 wins, which would be their worst win total since 2017 when they went winless. The point is, you always hear, guys, about the Browns with all the struggles over a couple of decades losing a generation, but that's not necessarily true because you could probably find a 25-year-old that is somehow a diehard Browns fan. Charlie Gallo joining us.
Well, you have to find
from the Garage Bear platform.
Yeah,
Yes,
you have
sir.
to not only find somebody who's a career Browns fan, but played football himself, and so he loves football.
Well, he's rocking the Minnesota Cardinals jersey too, and we'll get to that. But you are all right. So I'm assuming you're in your early to mid 20s,
Yes, sir.
right? And you're not letting it go. You're hanging with the Browns.
Yeah.
I don't know if you believe in them, but you still love them.
Yeah,
Fair to
for
say?
sure. Fair to say.
Favorite Brown right now on a team that has nothing.
Right now, probably Nick Chubb. He's the heart and soul.
Yeah, he
He's
is,
the-
and of course
he's the last guy there.
He's out.
It's tough, man.
Breaks his foot.
Hey, you played it. You played for Steve Trevisano
I did.
at Menor High School, which is I love covering stuff at the JTO.
Yeah.
That stadium. But anyway, talk about playing at Menor and what that culture is. We wish they had that culture over here down the street. But
Maybe
anyway,
they
what's
could
that like?
interview Triv.
Yeah, I wish he was here, but Triv definitely built a culture just based on working hard, doing things right, doing the right thing the first time, and something that stuck with me. Ended up giving me the ability to play in college. Played at Baldwin Wallace for 2 years, and then was a little bit of a traitor and went to John Carroll and played my last 2 years over there. But it's kind of like switching sides from the Browns to the Steelers in a way.
Right, it is. It happens.
He's Joe Hayden, Bob.
Exactly. Well, you know, the thing is, I've watched a lot of the Menor Cardinal games because I was living out there when I was with Cleveland. But recently, in like the last 10 years or so, it seems like you're always on top.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a team where kids are going to graduate in 4 years. You're probably not going to get them the freshman year. You probably got a couple, 2-3 years with a kid as a starter, but yet they keep bringing them back. And it doesn't, you know, there's very little fluctuation in the talent level.
Yeah,
Is that Triv?
I would say the foundation was definitely Triv. Unfortunately, he's moved on now, but they've still been able to carry on the tradition of being successful and winning and whatnot. But Menor's been very blessed with having 3-year quarterbacks that have been able to pretty much.
Let's start with Mitch. It started with Trubisky.
Martansky.
That
Martansky was
Bart
yeah. I'm sorry.
And then
yeah.
Mitch, Connor Krasanzik,
Ian.
Ian, and then it rolled right into Ian Kipp.
As he was your quarterback, Ian.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing that's fascinating, guys, about this story, it's one thing to be an Ignatius, to be a St. Ed's, you know, these private Catholic schools that are just juggernauts.
A St.
But
Joe's.
a St. Joe's, I'm sorry, being a Euclid guy, I can't believe I left you out. But to be a public school like Menor and continue, it almost doesn't seem possible because being a public school, you don't know what, your athletes come from whatever's in that building. And so... You know what I'm saying? What do you guys think of that? Because it seems...
Plus, you're talking about Mentor, which is, I mean, you've got Concord, you've got Painesville all around there. Plus, Mentor is continues to grow.
For sure.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of things out on Heisley Road and 44. They're starting to put in more stuff. So when you've got a place that's bringing more people in, you're talking about more kids. You're talking about more potential football players.
Do you think
and
that's
so it's
it,
a
Bob?
growing city. Yeah, I do.
You think actually, and because you're saying it, I actually agree with you. Like if you're a young family, like your son's 14, great hockey player and all that stuff, you start to think about where am I going to live for what school because how's their hockey, right? I wonder if you've got a kid who's 7, 8, 9 and you go, we live in Willoughby, but maybe we ought to go look for a house in Menor because I think our 2 sons are going to play football. Do you think that could
Well,
happen?
my kid.
It does happen.
When I came back from LA and here we moved into Solon, and one of the reasons is first off it was one of the top educational schools in the country, definitely in the state, and I knew they had a great football team and I had a great football program. And so that did play a part of the
It completely
reasoning,
happens. It's, I meant to tell you, we're moving to Mystery, Alaska next year. For
Oh,
my son.
great.
Hey, Charlie,
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
it like? Like, I'm much older. When I grew up in Massachusetts, the Patriots were a disaster. I mean, really.
It
No
wasn't my
offense.
fault.
No offense, Bob.
No, that's fine.
But
I watched part of that game, one of the games, the Buffalo Bills, New England Patriots, last night, 1981.
oh my God.
And we were
you-
we
yeah.
were 2-9.
Yes.
Oh, I had about 6 tackles by the time.
Were you 55? What was your number?
51.
51. That's right.
Is this Steve Grogan?
No.
Actually, Rogan was hurt.
Well, it was post Matt
something.
Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
We could do memory lane here all day.
Yeah.
Plunkett?
Plunkett was he was gone by then, wasn't
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Plunkett was
he?
gone.
He went to the
To
Raiders.
the Raiders.
I'm trying to remember who it
But
was.
but Charlie, what's it like to grow up in an environment where like it's I don't the Browns aren't a joke. I don't want to say they're a joke as a
I'll say it.
okay, but like they're your team that you love, but you really never have bragging rights because
No.
if you got buddies outside of the state, they're probably kicking their ass all the time.
Not while I was younger. I mean, there was always something or somebody fun to watch. Like when Josh Cribbs was there, I mean, like I adopted his mentality even when I began to play. But whether it was him getting in Wildcat and doing some cool stuff like that or returning kicks and punts, like Browns always had somebody that you could cling to and watch. I mean,
Are you stubborn in life?
stubborn
Stubborn in life?
sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. Just wonder because it seems like this
Yeah.
is.
We
it
like
seems
to say
that's what it
dedicated.
is, being stubborn. I'm not.
I'm
can't
feeling-
Tell me not to cheer for them.
Yeah, I mean, I was the kid even when they weren't very good on the video game. I was still playing as the Browns. Like that's my team. I mean, I'd find a way to win.
When they made the move for like your age and your friends to do what they did to Baker behind his back, go down, do the Watson thing. Watson says no to the Browns, then they're stuck, then the thing, and watch that all unfold. What does that do to a younger person who loves the Browns? And because you could all of us could see from the day of the trade, watch out and get off the tracks. You're going to get hit by this train. And I'm wondering if you felt that when they did that, because Baker certainly had us going in the right direction.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was probably the one move that hurt me the most and probably the most detrimental to the Browns in the last 20 years since they've come back. That was we were talking about it earlier. He beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in Cleveland to go to the playoffs, went to Pittsburgh, beat them in Pittsburgh. We haven't done that since, Tim Couch?
Yep, Couch was the last one.
And somehow you still get rid of the guy.
And
that
then
does
goes and
all of
puts up a
that.
great game at Arrowhead Stadium. I always emphasize that because they go like, oh, we won one playoff game. No. We not only went to Arrowhead, you guys both know, you played and you cover it, that's one of the toughest venues in all of the NFL. And Baker and those guys went in there and are like, no big deal. And they actually had these guys, which put us 5 minutes from the AFC Championship game in Buffalo. And somehow, like you say, before you start laughing uncontrollably about it, because it's hard to keep a straight face, somebody in that building said, "Nah, I don't think we're gonna."
Right. This is getting a little too close for comfort.
That close.
The next
to
thing
the
you
end.
know, we'll be in the Super Bowl. Somebody put an end to this thing.
Yeah. I'm telling you, that's what they had to do. Somebody said, and
No
the
one
fact
would do
that last thing on the Baker thing with you,
God.
Charlie, is we all hated what they did when they played Baker when he was hurt. There was something going on in that building to make him look bad because Matt Hasselbeck came on and had that same injury, and he said anyone who knows that much football knows as a quarterback you cannot throw without the guide arm when you guide. And you could see he was inaccurate. Right, and they kept playing him. What did you think as a player going, why is he playing?
If you go back to the Christmas game against
Packers?
the Packers, like there was a couple throws where you see him, he like normal Baker wants to let it rip, but he can't make that throw with his arm the way it's slung up. So threw 4 picks that game, and it was kind of like that was the game where I knew it was like, shoot, like he really shouldn't be out there, but he's too stubborn. He wants to be on the field.
As I saw
gamer.
it, because I didn't feel the same way. I felt like here's a badass. I mean, you don't normally see that with a quarterback. You see it with linemen getting up and put a piece of tape over a gash in their head.
Yeah, he was old school.
He was
He
gritty.
was old school, and he stayed out there as long as he could. It's not like they said, I don't care if you're hurt, get back out there. No, he wanted to stay out there. And that's one thing you don't see very much of anymore.
But then
People wanting
Tony's
to
point
stay on
is
the
if you've
field.
got a guy like that, why would you move on from that? That's such a
Exactly.
rare quality.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Right?
I respected
Hey.
that.
Number 1 pick in the draft, check. Took us to the playoffs, check. Beat the Steelers,
Twice.
check. Identifies with the city, check.
Check.
Alpha dog, check. Loves being in Cleveland, check.
Wants to stay here and raise his family. Check.
Somebody get rid of this guy.
Great,
Hey,
great progressive ads.
I'll tell you real quick,
Yeah.
because, as players, and we've talked about this a lot, decisions are made for different reasons.
Yeah.
You're onto something with why they played Baker despite his injury, and maybe there was an ulterior motive there, and that stuff happens.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't happen, which it does, then players still believe and are suspicious that it happens.
Well, I'm glad you brought this
Well, I'm
up.
not done.
Go
I
ahead.
remember Al Bubba Baker being on the set. Do you remember the Johnny Manziel rollout to the left against the Bengals with no protection?
Yes.
They rolled him out left with
Yeah.
zero
Oh,
protection.
And 20 guys came and
They
got him.
destroyed him.
Yeah.
And he was hurt. I'm not comparing Johnny to Baker. I'm telling you that Al
example.
Bubba Baker came on the 5th quarter that day, and he said that was intentional. Those coaches intentionally put him out there to
And put
get
him-
hurt,
They put him in harm's way.
to get him out of there.
They put him in harm.
Could be one coach, but he did it.
Yeah, and Bob, if
this
you
over.
have an inkling as a player in the locker room that you love Baker, I love what you're saying, he's a badass and all that stuff, and so he wants to play. This is the one, and I'm sorry I was interrupting, but it just hit me quick about, they kept saying, here, cue the laugh track, that, well, Baker told us he wants to play. It's his call. And you're like, well, wait a minute.
Cool.
That's like my 5-year-old wants to drive the car. And you go, what the hell are you doing? And they go, it's his call. He wanted to drive.
He asked for my matches. What was I supposed to do?
I thought it was going to be a candle. He lit the drapes. I didn't know.
We're going to take a break. But that's a great point. Ahead or behind when we come back?
Charlie's playing ahead of me.
Back here on the tailgate with Chuck Booms, Bob Golick, Charlie Gallo, our Browns fan of the week. Charlie, does that garage beer platform have a seatbelt? Because you need to buckle up, pal. It is time for...
Oh, buckle up, Charlie is
Why do
right.
I feel like the Gong Show every time I do this.
I'm like Chuck Barris. Ready?
I would have to wear the hat down low and all that stuff. And why'd he do that? It was coked up every show. Hey, it's time for the game show Sweeping the Nation. That's right, guys, boys, girls, you name it. From San Diego, California to Kennebunkport, Maine, and from Seattle, Washington, down to Key West, Florida, where I'll be meeting up with pop star smoke show Shawn Mendes, who promises to show me that he can treat me better than he can. Didn't think I had it in me. It's a header behind.
Let's rock it. All right, so is it going to be
It's
Mr.
Team Paisan.
I love it. That's what we're doing. All right.
Team Paisan against, really, the header behind king, Bob Golick.
Yeah,
You've been on quite a streak, Mr. Golick.
Bob,
that's okay. I
we
can
are
take
closing out the holiday month with
It's
what
holiday
else?
season.
Something we all did over the Christmas break, enjoyed the top 20 Christmas movies of all time.
it. Wait, Hallmark has about 375.
I said the best.
Oh, okay.
I saw one where the woman had to go back to her hometown to finish her novel, and she ran into her ex, and then
There's about 12 that do that.
I know.
Yeah.
Sounds like
And
a
then
Netflix special.
And then you went to Menor Mall and you bought yourself a Hallmark ornament for $42.
Fire it up.
All right, here we go.
Who goes first, me and Charlie?
Well, first, if you don't mind, I'd like to tell you what's in the middle of the list of the top 20 Christmas movies of all time. It's the Tim Burton cartoon, The Nightmare Before Christmas, circa 1993. Nightmare Before Christmas, right in the middle of the list. Bob, if you don't mind, Team Paisan, Charlie Gallo, Tony Zarella, they're going to lead it off. Let's give them a gimme, Bob. Let's get the Italian kids on the ropes here. Get them going. How about 1954's White Christmas, ahead or behind of The Nightmare Before Christmas?
What do you think?
Gotta be behind.
That's what I think.
1954.
White
But it's
Christmas.
just not.
This is
Yeah,
Bing
the song's
Crosby.
great. I don't care. He's trying to trick us because it's not. 50. There's old movies that are great. I don't think this is one.
Bob's shaking his head. Now
Okay.
you know
Say
he
behind.
knows.
You say it.
Behind.
They said be.
Boom.
Got it.
There's one.
I refuse
Good
to.
call,
I
Paisan.
refuse to go on.
Wow,
Here we go.
I
Charlie, shut
refuse
up.
to go on.
This is like when
My
you
favorite movie.
He's technically a ringer now. They were doing this to us.
1-0.
Bob. You know, all right, here we go. Bob,
Ryan, are you sure?
Bob Golick, a header behind legend. One of the most talked about arguments in the history of Christmas movies. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Is Die Hard with Bruce Willis? Yes, it's a Christmas movie, I say. Is it a header behind The Nightmare Before Christmas?
When the guy comes down with the hat on and says,
Ho, ho,
now
ho.
I have a machine gun, ho, 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 that definitely puts it in that genre. I'm going to say ahead.
Oh, no!
I was
Look out.
I was going for obscure. But
I would have guessed ahead too because people actually love to watch it at Christmas,
Die Hard's
I
a
watched
movie.
it 2 nights ago.
including me. I watched it too.
All right.
And you can watch Die Hard 2, which also is on Christmas.
Charlie, let's make
All right,
this a
here we
blow
go.
up. Come on.
This is a chance for. I mean, these guys, the team pie is on an unprecedented 2-0 lead. Guys, we don't see them a lot anymore, but I got to tell you, I have a couple ornaments I put on the tree with them. Maybe I should ask you this way. Is the Muppet Christmas movie, from 1992, with Miss Piggy. I can't do Miss Piggy. The Muppet Christmas movie, boys, circa 1992, ahead or behind of The Nightmare Before Christmas?
What do you think?
I got to give this one to you.
I say behind.
Yeah, I would too.
Behind.
What?
Oh.
Muppet Christmas, ahead.
kids and puppets. Never go against them.
That's right. And also, don't ever do TV shows with them, right?
Yeah,
No
exactly.
kids, no puppets. Bob, you're back in the game right now. It's the top 20 Christmas movies of all time. Right in the middle of the list is do you guys like The Nightmare Before Christmas? I thought it was clever. I'm not a,
Yeah.
I watched it once, then I got over it. Bob, when I see this movie, I think of you. Not that I think you'd go in the attic and the stairs would come down and hit you in the face.
I had.
But he already knows where I'm going.
Christmas
It's
Vacation.
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, ahead or behind?
I had.
Oh my!
What the hell?
Look at Charlie.
What the hell is
Wow.
going on?
Charlie,
He's
your
upset
face
about
on
that
camera.
one.
So Charlie's like, "What? I didn't make the list."
Charlie, we can wrap this up right here.
Yeah, we really could.
This is
time to
and
lock
Bob
in.
Golick has never been shut out
I know.
in ahead or behind
Let's do it.
history. Here we go.
This is for the win.
All right, let me check this out here. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba.
Do like It's a Wonderful Life or
Yeah, that would be a toughie. Yeah, gee, what else? Oh, let's go tougher. How about A Christmas Story?
I watched it like 11 times the other day.
All right,
Very good.
It was on
here we go.
I know.
Now, very underrated as a Christmas movie, based off the old classic Ebenezer Scrooge. Bill Murray stars in what I think is one of the funniest.
Yes.
Him going back through time, finally learns the meaning of Christmas.
1988.
Bobcat Goldthwait
Yep.
plays the crazy coworker and all that stuff. Is 1988's Scrooge with Bill Murray ahead or
Crazy
behind?
scene. You know, more cats are watching television. the
so
network executive starts designing programming.
How
for
about when the
cats.
boss? How about when the boss is doing the shots and the alcohol is coming out of all of his?
1988.
The part I
All
liked,
right,
when they had
Scrooge.
when they couldn't keep the antlers.
I say it's ahead.
on
Gotta
the
be
mouse.
ahead.
And
I
did
had.
you try a stapler?
No, it's wide left. Dustin Hopkins.
And this
Bob,
one's-
you got him by saying,
one's
remember
for
the
two.
antlers? And he goes, give me a stapler for the
We're
mouse.
giving you a chance, Bob.
I would have, Bob, I would have said ahead.
I
with
would have
Scrooge.
said, yeah.
Yeah. All right, now, Bob.
For the win. Give him a double. We got to go.
This is a
So,
double.
for
This
the
is
win.
the biggie.
Win or
All right.
lose.
All right. Now they're going to accuse me of,
here we go.
Trying to cheat or whatever just because Bob's on a huge
Watch,
win streak.
Miracle on 34th. You
Yeah,
know
here
what's
we go.
coming here.
I love shopping at Macy's in New York
exactly.
City.
Yeah.
Touched to the very soul, Robert, by the bag of letters that come into the courtroom, Mr. Attorney, as the kids around the world said, of course he's Santa Claus, because it was the miracle on 34th Street.
1947.
Ahead, it is 1947. Ahead, Bob, or behind?
Ahead.
You
what
owe
in
me
the hell?
tea pies.
What in the hell?
I
Wait,
got him.
No. We need to be able to verify your list.
Charlie
I
Gallo.
want a copy of your
Not
list.
only does
Every
Charlie
night.
get to come in and win on ahead or behind, you, young man, get to go home with the Tailgate, Big Play
Oh, my
Tailgate
God.
kitchen magnets.
Let's go.
All right, here we go. Let me, a little music, maestro, while I give you the top 10. Number 1, Tuffy. It is.
I have no idea.
It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
Number 1. Number 2, A Christmas Story. Number 3, Charlie Brown's Christmas. Number 4, Elf. Number 5, The Grinch.
Yeah.
The Grinch. Number 6, I was going to give you this. It's so dumb. Love Actually.
Oh, great movie.
No.
Okay. Here's the one that got me. Number 7, Bad Santa.
Oh,
Yeah.
Billy Bob Thornton. Is he in there?
I think it's Billy Bob. But I like the one where, what's his, okay, I'll tell you later. Muppet Christmas. Year Without a Santa Claus makes it at number 9, 1974. That's Heat Miser.
Oh, yeah,
and the Snow Miser.
So much.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, number 10. And this I was going to use, this was my other one to stump. It was ahead by only one. 1990's Home Alone.
That's the one I was
surprised
waiting
that's so
on.
low.
Home Alone. I knew that was one
I
of
was
your
waiting on Home Alone.
The
That should be
top-
in the top 10.
The top sports stories of 2024 when we come back. Only going to do one game this week. Browns hosting the Dolphins. They're getting the Browns 6.5. Charlie, do they cover?
They cover.
They do cover. They don't, they don't do well against the spread.
You're going Browns?
I'm going Browns against the Dolphins.
Okay, what do you got?
I'm with him. I'm actually making a pick this time, not just doing a homer thing.
Good. You think the Browns cover?
I think the Browns cover.
What do you think?
I wish it was Jim Kick, Larry Zonka, Mercury Morris, Bob Greasy, Paul
you
Warfield,
Bob
and Gary
Kuchenberg.
and Gary
Bob
Gary
Kuchenberg.
Premium, Bob
Yeah.
Kuchenberg.
All right,
No. This actually, attention 92. Miami is technically alive, and they need this, and they're going to win, and they're going to win big. I will take the Dolphins.
Yeah, I'll take the Dolphins given the 6.5. Top sports stories of 2024. Can I go first?
Yes, I think
usually
you should. Yeah,
set
no,
the table for
Bob,
everybody?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think without a doubt it is Caitlin Clark and what Caitlin Clark did not only at Iowa but also in the WNBA.
And what she had to endure.
Where viewership of her team, the Indiana Fever,
Yeah.
was up 318%. And she came into the league despite the venom from some jealous players around the league, and she set rookie scoring records and all kinds of records and took a team that was awful into the playoffs. An immediate turnaround. Caitlin Clark, runaway story of the year.
I love it, and I'm going to go quick because I want to hear Charlie's and Bob's. I'm going to shock you, but this is for you and your son. My personal
don't say
favorite,
Florida Panthers.
the Florida
Oh, God.
Panthers. The please throw the rats on the ice. I have loved the Panthers ever since the rat throwing stuff. They have such a great team. They fell short the last time. This was the year. I really enjoyed it. I thought, by the way, ratings were up for the NHL all through the playoffs. I loved it. One last thing to promote hockey. On New Year's Eve, not day this time, New Year's Eve, it is the St. Louis Blues, guys, at the Chicago Blackhawks
They're
at
Wrigley?
Wrigley
Right?
Field.
They're at Wrigley Field.
Wrigley Field.
Bob,
Outdoor
top
hockey.
sport story.
For me, the biggest time of last year in sports was when the Brown season was over. I was going to go with Caitlin.
You can. I
Okay,
think it's a runaway
think
story.
the Caitlin thing, and I hated the fact that everybody else besides Caitlin, everybody else proved why they don't get deals, why they don't get paid better, because there's nothing but animosity and screaming and jealousy and bitterness, and they proved their own problem. They should just let it go, ride along, and enjoy the ride.
Charlie.
I think it was LeBron sharing the court with his son, Bronny James.
Oh, wow.
The story for next year would be cool. Does he share it with Bryce at some point? Bryce is in his senior year at Sierra Canyon, and he's pretty good too, if not better than Bronny.
Not too shabby.
Well,
All right,
you led us right into what we predict for 2025. You go first.
I'm going to go with my alma mater, the University of Kentucky. I believe because I keep in touch with a lot of people down in the school. Bob, you're a proud Notre Dame grad. When you come from schools like Notre Dame and Kentucky, they don't like being overlooked.
Right.
I think Kentucky backs the Brinks truck up and gets the Connecticut coach to come to Kentucky on a 10-year deal that will keep the University of Kentucky what they are, the greatest college basketball program of all time.
Charlie, what do you got?
Do the Cavs make it to an NBA Finals without LeBron James?
2025?
2025.
Interesting.
All right. NBA Finals for the Cavs. Bob, what do you got?
Next year, but coming up soon, Notre Dame wins the national championship.
Well, it has to be for 2025, and that's not a bad prediction, by
That
the
is
way.
2025, isn't it? Isn't the game on January 1st or something?
Oh, you mean now? You
No,
think this?
no, not the Georgia game, the national championship.
Well, I understand, but you're saying this year's team is going to win.
This year's team going to
Wow.
win in
They're gonna win in
2025.
Then what are you going to do for the other 11 months of the year?
I don't know.
He'll
I'll find
celebrate.
something.
He's a Notre Dame guy. Notre Dame women's hoop
I
is good.
say
Celebrate.
good stuff. I say Bill Parcells makes not Bill Parcells.
Belichick.
Makes an immediate impact in the college game.
I like
and they
that
go
one.
to the playoffs.
I think that they win the
And
ACC.
it transforms college football forever.
I like that one. One last
already
one.
been-
We got 20 seconds.
One
to
last
form.
one to throw in real quick. I predict that Deshaun Watson will have another lawsuit.
Wow. On that note, Happy New Year, everybody. It's been a privilege and an
Happy
honor.
New Year, you guys.
Thanks, and we'll see you next week. We do have another one on the tailgate.